and welcome. I am DEJI360. Nigerians are going through a very tough time at the moment. They're battling the twin problem of scarcity of Naira notes and petrol, which have crippled businesses, especially in the informal sector, and aggravated the cost of living of cash-strapped Nigerians. A survey of some major cities across the country shows people spending valuable time queuing up in front of automated teller machines or banks in search of cash, and they are not getting the cash. Most ATMs have run out of the new Naira notes. Even banks don't have enough to go around. And for those who choose to patronize point-of-sales operators, they have been made to pay exorbitant charges in order to get the cash. And that is if they are lucky to find a POS operator with cash. Buying and selling is gradually grinding to a halt in this country. Even banking apps are overwhelmed and don't work optimally. And this is all as a result of the Central Bank of Nigeria's Naira redesigned and cashless policy. The CBN has, of course, extended the deadline for the phase-out of the old Naira notes to February 10th, but even that has not in any way helped the escalating chaos we continue to see across the country. In fact, protests have begun erupting in some parts of the country over the controversial Naira redesign policy. Although the CBN has threatened to prosecute new Naira note sellers, recent videos of people spraying the notes at social functions now on social media platforms amid the scarcity has increased citizens' anger and frustration. Now, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, has said President Muhammadu Buhari is not happy with the situation, but she was quick to add that the harsh realities citizens are facing over the currency swap are temporary and a necessary price to pay for the nation's economy to improve. But on the streets of this country, the policy is making life a living hell for many, especially the poor. Joining me to discuss the matter now is economic expert and CEO, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Doc, thank you very much for joining us on the program. You look at the chaos going on around the country today. Is this the best way to introduce new currencies into an economy?
Certainly not. Certainly not. If you look at the examples of other climes, like UK, which is perhaps the most recent, there was a transition from the paper notes to polymer notes of £20 and £50. And this was done within a space of 2 years. We are talking now about an economy that has the infrastructure, that has the financial inclusion, that has the high literacy level, and that have very, very wide or large formal sector. So if such an economy can give 2 years for this kind of transition, why would Nigeria, with all the shortcomings that we have, aiming to do this under 2 months? I mean, the timeline is too ambitious, and these things are not done this way. They are done gradually. You withdraw old notes gradually and replace with new ones. You don't print everything in one go. I mean, look at what is happening in the United States. Even currencies that were introduced 10, 15 years ago, they are still legal tender.
Yes.
But they systematically withdraw these things and replace with old ones. I mean, if you check the website of the Federal Reserve Bank, they will tell you none of their currencies can be regarded as not being legal tender, even though it has been introduced for so many years. So what they do is to gradually withdraw this in and replace. So that is what has caused the chaos. The principle of it maybe is okay, but the process, the speed, and the very unrealistic timeline is what is causing all of these problems.
I mean clearly from what we have seen, it's become very obvious that the CBN clearly underestimates the number of people who use cash in this country, especially at the informal sector.
Exactly. It has been grossly underestimated. And also, both the number and the logistics demands for this kind of things were grossly underestimated. I mean, they were basing this on assumptions that really cannot stand very close scrutiny. I mean, they believe that, you just, get people, take their cash and just ask them to go to ATM. The CBN approach was too elementary, it was too simplistic, And it was based on assumptions that cannot stand the test of time. And I mean, a lot of people had advised the CBN, and but for some reason, the CBN has remained adamant. So we don't have to go through all of this. And in any case, what is the value proposition of all of this? Because I've listened to the CBN governor several times saying that there's too much cash outside the system. We have 85% of cash outside the system. Again, you don't base a policy decision on that kind of analysis or theory. Cash is meant to be outside the system. Cash is not meant to be inside the system or inside the banks. What we should worry about is the percentage of cash ratio of your cash to your money supply. How much money do you have in the system? And money is not only cash. What percentage of the money is cash? That is what should worry the CBN. And if you look at the data, percentage of cash percentage of money that is money supply that is cash is only about 6% or even less. This is the way to measure whether you have too much cash in the system or not. You look at your money supply. Money supply as at end of 2022 was 52 trillion. The cash component of money supply was just about 2.6 trillion. You know, that is just about 5%. That is one of the best ratios you can have anywhere in the world. Then another way to measure whether you have too much cash is to relate your cash to your GDP. The cash is 2.6 trillion. The GDP is almost 250 trillion. Just about 1.5% or less. So this is fixing what is not broken. So in the first place, all this urgency, all this rush are completely unnecessary. If you look at this ratio compared with even some advanced economies, we have done extremely well. The last data that was released by the NIBSS stated that in 2022, cashless transaction was 395 trillion naira. POS transaction was over 8 trillion naira. Mobile money too was around 8 trillion. So what problem exactly does the CBN want to solve? That it has now thrown the whole economy into chaos.
And talking about the economy now, you look at just across the country, it would appear buying and selling is gradually grinding to a halt. It's difficult for people to do any form of cash transaction. As we speak, for instance, the woman who sells food just around our office is not able to sell because people don't actually have the cash now to buy from her, and she deals in cash, and she's not able to sell. I mean, it runs across. People are not able to take the bus because the bus driver asks for cash. So it's tough. Could you shed more light for us now on how this is impacting the economy and impacting businesses?
No, just as you said, this has practically crippled some very critical segments of the Nigerian economy, especially those that are driven by cash. And one of such sector is the trade sector. The trade sector is, next to agriculture, is about the largest employer of labor. The trade sector accounts for about 15% of our GDP. And the volume of output in that sector is over 32 trillion naira. Now, this sector is driven largely by cash. So when you now dispossess them, as it were, of their cash, you cripple that entire sector. The same thing is happening with agricultural sector. Agri sector accounts for about 25% of our GDP. It's the largest employer of labor. Now, all the transactions in that chain are cash-based. So if you now dispossess these people and disrupt their business, you paralyze the entire value chain in agriculture. Then in some segments of services like transportation, just as you cited, you can't be transferring cash to a bus conductor or somebody who's selling tomato or selling pepper in the market or selling meat. All these things, the damage is enormous. That is why I said in a release that we made that almost 100%, 100 trillion of our GDP is at risk as a result of this policy. The whole thing is completely uninformed. And it's as if people don't understand monetary economics. The CBN was talking about mopping up cash. And my sense of his own reasoning is that the way to control money supply or achieve the cashless of debt is to go and be mopping up people's cash. This is cash that people are using to do business. We're in an economy where over 30 million people don't have bank accounts. Many of them are in rural areas. Many of them are in locations where there are no banks.
Exactly.
How can you go and mop up their cash? And he was claiming that as an achievement of the policy, that he had been able to mop up 1.9 trillion. So does he now want to sit on the 1.9 trillion? The whole idea of exchanging currency is that as people bring in their money, you replace it immediately.
Exactly.
You don't sit on it. It's a very crude way of managing monetary policy. There's no reason for this at all. No reason. Now, you are talking of mopping up. As I told you, cash is only 5% of total money supply. 95% of money is still within the banking system. If you cannot do anything with that in terms of monetary policy, is it the just 5% that's outside the banking system that will make the magic? Certainly not.
Yeah, because I've actually been wondering too, because sometimes the CBN, and we've had some, sometimes even the CBN governor has said that. He did allude to that during the last MPC meeting that, look, this policy would help to stabilize the foreign exchange market, for instance, and that it will help to check inflation. And I'm wondering how that can be.
You see, and I'm saying this with all due respect, there's a major economic literacy issue in the way we are managing our monetary policy. A major issue with economic literacy. And that is why, and also with due respect, the economists in the CBN should do their job. And they should advise their principal properly. All of these things don't have any basis in economic theory or empirical studies. How can redesigning the currency influence inflation or influence money supply? Cash as a percentage of money is 5%. The tail cannot be wagging the dog. How can 5% solve the problem of inflation or the problem of exchange rate? The CRR, this cash reserve ratio today, which is a major instrument of monetary policy, is 32.5%. And the amount that has been mopped up under CRR is close to 15 trillion already. If you cannot achieve anything with that, why must you be chasing the poor, innocent people, small micro enterprises, innocent Nigerians? And you're now mopping up the cash that they are using basically for their businesses and for their day-to-day living. I mean, it's turning economic management upside down. And somebody needs to weigh in on this very, very quickly and urgently too. This is not the way to manage monetary policy in any economy.
How much damage do you think this would do? At the end of the day, how much damage do you think it would have done to our economy before things stabilize? Because the way it's looking, I don't see this getting resolved as quickly as possible. The truth is that the CBN has not printed enough money, even though it continues to insist that it gives the banks more than enough. The truth is that I don't think much has been printed of the new currency now, and that's the reason why we're having the current shortage we have at the moment, and the reason why ATMs and banks are being crowded at the moment, and it's difficult to do any cash transaction. So when all of this is over, how much damage do you think this policy would have done to the economy?
The damage will be tremendous. We're already feeling it. You can see it's all over the place. The evidence is all over. Now, the working capital of all these SMEs have been practically impounded, as it were. So you have paralyzed a major segment of the economy. In the border towns now, I hear that the report is that they are now using SEFA. Trade across the sub-region. And Nigeria is a major player in as far as trade in the sub-region is concerned. That is almost being paralyzed. Because most of the trade in the sub-region is also cash-based. It's by the informal sector people. Now, the Naira is a dominant currency in the sub-region. That has also affected trade in the sub-region. A lot of our currency is out there in the sub-region by virtue of the size of our economy and the dominance of our economy in the sub-region. So it's causing a whole lot of damage in terms of the economy, in terms of employment, in terms of poverty, and in terms of general confidence. And it also has very high political costs. I must admit, I'm not part of their politics, but the political cost is going to be very high. How can we, as an apex institution, come with the simplistic solution that the way to do cashless policy or manage money supply is to go and impound people's cash and keep it in the vault of the banks? It's a very crude monetary management policy, very crude.
All right.
And somebody has to advise the CBN. This is most unfair. We don't deserve this at all.
All right. Dr. Muda Yusuf, thank you very much for joining us on the program, and thank you for your wonderful insights. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us and go away. Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal. How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.